We're back, joined, I am exceedingly pleased to say, by one of the eminent figures in the fight for freedom in Europe. He is the associate director now of a marvelous organization, the Henry Jackson Society. You may recall his appearances in the past with us under a different banner, but it is now part of that society, the Center for Social Cohesion. His name is Douglas Murray, and I am thrilled, Douglas. As we speak, the president is poised to make a major address on Muslim outreach, and few people have been following and holding accountable better those who are engaged in this kind of business in Europe than you. So welcome to us. And again, we're speaking in anticipation of the president's address. But nonetheless, I'd like to get your thoughts as to how, in particular, in the experience of Great Britain and others in Europe, this whole business is going as tracked by or tracking with the sort of approach or program that you know is that of the Obama administration.
Well, first of all, great to be with you again, Frank, as always. I mean, the thing that could be expected is a continuation of what I would think of as exactly the wrong path in dealing with the issue of radicalization, which is that I think, broadly speaking, if you live in a non-Muslim majority country, if you live in any Western democracy, you have pretty much two options in front of you when dealing with the issue of Islamic radicalism. One is that you get involved in theological debates, in theological arguments. You insert yourself in the middle of a theological war that is ongoing and has been within Islam for almost 1.5 millennia. Either you do that or you decide that you're going to simply state where you stand as a society, where your parameters are, and where they stop. And I think that of these two, the second is not only more likely to be successful, but is also infinitely simpler and also less costly. But Obama has, for a long time now, been going down the first of those routes. And it's the same route that European elites have been going down for the last decade and more, which is to get involved in theology, to get involved in backing the right groups against the wrong groups and so on. And I think that's a terrible mistake, but it's one that America is now engaged in.
Yeah. In the examples of the right approach, presumably you are heartened by what we saw coming out of Australia earlier this week in response to the pressure there to accommodate Sharia, this political, military, legal program of those who adhere to what the authorities of Islam believe is the path. Is that in fact what we all should be doing? Is saying no, you're not bringing Sharia here?
Absolutely. I mean, Australia has once again set an example in this. It's very interesting, the countries which end up being the sort of heroic countries who you look to for an example in all of this, and those that you realize way down the path you wouldn't want to go down yourself. And in the first category, Australia is emerging as a hero. I mean, its political elites and its judiciary, and indeed its police, seem to have been for a long time much more capable than most democratic countries to simply say no. And that's, thank goodness, what they've done again in recent days. It's a great example of just dealing with this in a straightforward way. You don't have to get involved with what type of Sharia or which school of Sharia. You just say no. Right. No Sharia here.
Not here. An example of a country that has gone pretty far down the other path, sadly, and rather surprisingly, I guess, is Denmark, where a colleague, Lars Hedegaard, head of the International Free Press Society, has been actually convicted of engaging in what amounts to blasphemy against Islam, a Sharia agenda item of the first order. Tell us what's going on there, Douglas, and how dangerous that is for Western societies if it becomes the practice more broadly.
Well, this is a great example. The Hedegaard case in Denmark is a great example of the way in which extreme Islamist ideology comes in through the back door. I mean, if you said to an average American, Brit, or Dane that there was somebody who could be prosecuted and fined in their countries for making a joke, say, about Jesus Christ or about the Virgin Mary or something, they would say, where are these people? Let me at them. Who are these backward religious types? We must squash them immediately. They know exactly what they'd do in those cases, but it comes to Islamic sensibilities, it comes to Islamic ideology, it comes to the Muslim God, and everyone runs a mile. And as you see in the Hedegaard case in Denmark, are willing to introduce and reintroduce blasphemy as a concept. Not even in the form which they had to overthrow across free countries over the recent centuries, but in an entirely new form and with an entirely new religion. And, you know, the strange thing about all this is that if Lars Hedegaard had said something that was offensive to the Christian population of Denmark, nothing would have happened, and quite rightly so, because we live in free societies where people have the right to express their opinions. But when he expresses something which is allegedly offensive to the Muslim population, it's a whole different game. Call in the police, get in the judiciary, a crime has occurred. And this is how people lose their freedoms. They don't lose their freedoms by something coming in through the front door that they recognize that's happened before. It happens by things that come in through the back door, things you weren't looking out for, things you weren't expecting. And this is a classic case of it, and it's one that everyone should be very worried about.
Yes, indeed. It's exemplary of the practice that has come to be known as civilization jihad, as practiced by the Muslim Brotherhood. And Douglas, in the remaining couple of minutes we have with you, and unfortunately it's fleeting, I wanted to ask you what you make of the prospect of the rise in power of the Muslim Brotherhood in many of these places that have been undergoing what we're endlessly told is an Arab Spring or awakening and the burgeoning of democracy, insofar as the Brotherhood, both through this kind of civilization jihad that it's been waging in places like Europe and, for that matter, here in the United States, and through the more violent kinds of jihad that it is perfectly prepared to wage in places where it sees it as being appropriate, as in, for example, the Palestinian areas under its franchise Hamas. Where are you on the question that President Obama is going to be addressing today of our approach towards the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt and perhaps Syria and elsewhere in the region, as well as here in the West?
Well, the fact is that the Muslim Brotherhood, if it is to gain prominence, if it is indeed to come to power in Egypt or any other country across the region, will be a catastrophe for the region. It will be a catastrophe for whichever country they gain control of. The Muslim Brotherhood is a fascist movement. It would be described as such on a regular basis if it weren't for the fact that it's the Muslim Brotherhood. Again, I mean, the fact with this is a fascist political party, and we currently see the grotesque, ghoulish sight of people running around London and Washington even more so, trying to find excuses for them and trying to tell people they aren't what they are. You know, we've seen with the Hamas, an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood, what people do from the Brotherhood and their ideology when they get to power. And it's to murder their Muslim political opponents and oppress everyone else. And the fact that there are people running around Washington trying to exculpate these people of any guilt and pretending they're this sort of moderate wing of it is preposterous. If you were a moderate, you wouldn't be a member of the Brotherhood. Full stop.
There you go. And well said, as always, Douglas Murray of the now Henry Jackson Society in the United Kingdom. I have a great fondness for it, as Henry Jackson was one of my old bosses and a great mentor and leader, and we need more of his kind of vision and practice on both sides of the pond, and you're certainly providing it there, Douglas Murray, and thank you for joining us periodically here at Secure Freedom Radio. We'll hopefully visit with you after the President's address and get your take on where he's taking us in this great contest of our time. Douglas Murray, thank you again.